Hello again. I have just reached a point in my riding career where I have to make a big change. Most of us will go through some kind of change like this at some point. I think it's very rare for us not to have this kind of change. I am moving Stu to a new barn. He's been at quite a few barns at this point, and I've decided now that it's time to move him again. And I think this would be a great time to have a discussion about moving barns because that is such a big deal. The barn you're at influences so much of your riding life. If you're at the wrong barn, riding feels like a chore. It's a struggle to want to get the motivation and you wonder, why are you doing this? It can be confusing because you want to enjoy riding so much, and obviously you love horses. So why is it so hard? That's kind of the struggle that I was going through, and that's why I decided to move him. I want to talk about reasons you might leave a barn, as well as go over a few of my experiences that have been the most traumatic. I don't want to express trauma that's not there, but these are the worst barn experiences that I had, which really probably aren't that bad compared to maybe some of yours. So you should tell me below about your barn experiences. But these are some experiences I had that just left me fuming. They way overshadowed some of the more nice experience I had, which is kind of stinky because the good experiences should be the happy experiences and the memories you have, and instead it's like you got the stinky memories. Oh, I'm sorry. But really, I don't really think about these experiences too much, but they are still there. But I've actually had a lot of great experiences at a lot of different barns, and I've still ended up leaving, and I'll get into that one later. Let's talk about the biggest reason why you should leave a barn. If you are at a barn and your horse is not being cared for, you should leave. If your horse is not getting fed, you should leave. If you are being treated poorly, you should leave. Leave. I give you permission to leave and let it go. You can find another barn. There's so many barns that are just awful. People will still put up with them because of, I think a lot of times people just don't realize the extent of how much they shouldn't tolerate it. Maybe they're newer to horses, or maybe they're just used to authority figures and they just think this barn owner is an authority figure, so I'm just going to tolerate it. You do not need to tolerate it. You can take ownership of your horse life and skedaddle. In these cases, you don't even need to give notice. Just take your horse and go. If your horse is truly suffering, just get out of there. If it's a lack of care or abuse or you feel unsafe, these break the boarding contract and you should just go. My own experience with this, which I'd actually forgotten about this one until I started going through my thoughts of what are the worst barns I've ever been at. This one ranks as the worst barn I have ever been at. I was boarding and I owned a thoroughbred, and I was having trouble with her, either soundness or just lack of training, which now that I know more, I'm just gonna say that I was just too beginner. I think that's okay as long as you acknowledge that and then get help. But eventually I ended up selling this horse because I could not handle the horse because it was just too advanced for me. I had this horse and I was struggling with her. I'm gonna take the horse back to the family farm. I'm gonna give it some time off and just reset. That's when I bought my horse Barry to be her companion, and Barry was the best. I miss her. If I ever have enough money, I'm gonna go find her and buy her back. But anyway, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story, I was gonna take them home and just have a reset. There were some complications with bringing the horse back to my family house, so I decided to board them instead, and I was like, oh, they'll be closer to me, right? Because I didn't live there. It was a bit of late notice too, which is one of the reasons why I think I let some possible red flags just slip by, because I was urgently needed to find a place. This barn, completely new construction. A man had built it. He did not have any horse experience. He owned a construction company. So he used his construction company to build this barn because his daughters wanted to ride, which would have been sweet if the guy wasn't such a jerk. In the initial meetings, I didn't talk to him too much because he had a barn manager. I talked to the barn manager, and you'd assume the barn manager would be the person doing the day-to-day. So I didn't really think it was a red flag if the owner was a jerk because the owner's not involved. Turns out I was wrong. So despite the barn manager and I discussing the horses would be fed, you know, I'd be able to ride on the property, I'd be able to keep my stuff there. I brought my horses and I started unloading my stuff, and he got upset that I was unloading my stuff. Why are you keeping stuff here? Where am I supposed to keep my saddle? Am I supposed to keep it in my car? The barn manager at that point spoke to him, and I guess they worked it out because that ended up being fine. The next problem, I went to ride, did not plan to ride at the same time at his daughters. I just happened to be there at the same time they were there, and he did not like that at all. He did not want me riding in the ring with his daughters at the same time. Still not really sure why. So I rode my horse in the field next to the arena, which was really strange. The final straw of this was I discovered that He had no plans of feeding my horses. He got upset when I asked about when the horses would get fed. And he said, "Oh, we don't feed them at all. You're responsible for that." I said, "That's not what I agreed to. The barn manager said that they would be fed." That started a war, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. He was mad, so mad. He was mad I wanted my horses to be fed. He didn't think that was his responsibility. I very much got the impression that he just wanted clients to subsidize his daughter's horse hobby. The daughters, by the way, seemed very sweet. He didn't want me using the property for my own horses, and he didn't want to be responsible for them in any way. His anger and his unwilling to discuss it and just get nasty with me made me realize I needed to move the horses right away. The horses were there for 3 days. It took 3 days for this whole situation to burn down. I arrived there with no notice, packed up all my stuff, packed up the horses, and left. That was it. But he was so mad. I guess he took it as a personal slight because he started calling and threatening lawsuits and just getting really, really mad at me. He said my bank had called him to tell him that I had canceled the check I had written him for board. And this was not the case at all, and I don't, banks don't do that as far as I'm aware. How would they even know I had written the check? That's confusing, and I was not trying to get my money back either. I had paid for a month and a half of board, and I did nothing to try to get it back. I didn't say anything to him. I didn't say I want my money back or anything. I just let it go. But he kept calling me and harassing me and demanding payment for multiple months, saying I owed him for the next several months of board. It was absolutely outrageous, and I had to threaten him with legal action if he didn't leave me alone. So that by far was the most stressful, scariest horse situation that I've been in. Luckily, he did back off and it was eventually water under the bridge, but that was just extreme and intense. If you feel like your barn owner is a bully and treating you badly, get out of there, because I don't think there's any reasoning with people like that. Stand up for yourself, stand up for your horses, and get out. Let them sue you. Let them come after you for 30 days board or whatever. Chances are they're not going to. From a politeness standpoint, you don't need to be polite to people like that. The bridge is already burned. You're not gonna try to go board with them again. So just get out, forget about the rest of your money, forget about 30 days notice, just leave. I give you permission. Hopefully you already knew this before I'm saying this, but for those of you who are in this position and are not sure what to do, the correct choice is leave, because there is so much more to the horse world besides bullies and jerks and mean people, and you could be out there having fun and instead you're dealing with drama. Don't deal with drama, just leave. Another really good reason to leave is lack of service. I think this isn't stressed enough. I think this is where it gets to a bit of a gray area. You might be saying, well, obviously I'm not gonna pay for something I don't get. You'd be surprised how many people put up with a trainer that will charge them for things that don't happen, or treat them disrespectfully, or make you feel like you didn't get your money's worth and they just put up with it. Some trainers are held in such respect that you just assume that that's what you should just put up with, and that is not true. This is something that people do put up with in the horse world, and they really shouldn't. You should be able to have your lessons on time. If you're at a show, your trainer should have come and helped you and not just left you on your own. You shouldn't be ignored during lessons. Your trainer should be helping you. If you pay for training rides, your horse should be getting training rides. There's so many things that because you're not around, your trainer might charge you for them and then they just don't happen. I'm not saying this is common, but it does happen. There's been many times where clients feel like they're being disrespected with their time and then they just put up with it because that's how it is. And I don't think that's how it should be. I think if you as the client are not being treated with respect and getting your money's worth, you should leave. My story of this happening, I went to a big name trainer in this area. I was super excited to go there. It was going to be dream lessons. I was so excited that I even bought a package of lessons because I was so sure that I was gonna love riding with this trainer and it was gonna be amazing. At first, the training, it was fine. I wasn't unhappy at first, it seemed okay. I was very unhappy with the way the trainer was teaching. It was very much cranking the horse in the mouth, get flexation. And I don't think that's right, and that actually messed up my horse permanently because after that, if I told her to stop, she'd just drop her chin to her chest, which was a very, very, very annoying habit and very hard to break. And at the time, I was just thinking, okay, well maybe this is just how Olympic level riders ride, and this is what I just need to go with the program. Now I know that that was really stupid, and that's not the case. I wish that I had stopped it there, but I didn't. What sent me over the edge with this trainer, I was riding there one day, and my husband was there that day filming for me. He doesn't do that for me anymore. So I was getting my lesson. My husband's filming. He might have, I don't know if it was maybe this is a camcorder that I'm holding. And he just kind of pans over to her, and she's just sitting there on her cell phone, scrolling and saying, oh, yep, good job. Good job. You're doing great. You're doing great. What is that? What is that? Unbelievable. And it wasn't just one time, it was multiple times. So I'm paying for a lesson and she's on her cell phone. The level of disrespect, that's atrocious. Why am I paying you to teach me to ride and you can't even be bothered to watch me ride? Unbelievable. That was the last lesson I had with her. It might seem like I'm blowing up over something small, but that to me does not feel small at all. That is disrespectful. I don't think we should put up with it. Just because this person is a big name trainer, they get to be disrespectful of their clients. No, I don't think that's the case at all. I did not even finish the rest of my prepaid package. I was just over this trainer. And I was over idolizing trainers at that point too. I realized we idolize these big name trainers and then it turns out they don't respect us. That's not a blanket statement because not every big name trainer, I've met other big name trainers and they get very respectful and kind and appropriate with their teaching. It was just this one. But I also realized big name trainers are still humans and they still make mistakes. Don't be blinded by big name and don't feel like you need to stay with someone who acts like you are unworthy of their time. You are worthy of getting the service you paid for. Don't be intimidated because of big names or authority. You paid for it. Get it. If you're not getting what you're paying for, you should leave. Don't let yourself be a pushover. You can find a barn that respects you and respects your money. The final reason I want to go into of why you might leave your barn is a lack of fulfillment. This one is more of a gray area. Maybe you really enjoy a barn, but something's off. Something doesn't feel right. Or maybe there's an aspect you like and an aspect you don't like. And so it's very conflicting because do you stay or do you go? How are you supposed to know? But something doesn't feel right. Some of the reason you might feel this way is you might just need a more advanced instructor at this point, or you might need a more advanced group to ride with. There are some instructors, there's some trainers where the best fit for them is just beginning riders. They do it really, really good and they make a great environment for beginning riders. But at a certain level, they can't teach above the beginning rider stage. And it might be time to find an instructor who can teach you the next level up. It does stink to lose a friend or feel like you're losing a friend, but most instructors understand they're really good at teaching certain aspects of riding, and then their students will move on and find other places to ride to teach other aspects of riding. And this is a natural progression. A great example of people who do this really well are eventers. And I'm not an eventer myself, so I can't speak from personal experience, but the eventers I know, they'll have an instructor for dressage, and then they'll have an instructor for jumping, and then they'll have an instructor for cross country, and they'll just rotate through instructors depending on what they are working on. They're not married to any one instructor. They will ride with everyone and their brother. I think that's a great way of looking at how to progress in your riding. Some people are just really good at teaching one aspect of riding. To get a full, well-rounded education, you go to different teachers of different things. So it's not so much that you're leaving one instructor, you're just advancing to other instructors. And that is a perfectly good reason to leave a barn. Now, if you really, really like the environment you're at, maybe there's a hybrid where you could get a horse trailer, or if you have a horse trailer, just trailer out for lessons and then stay with your same core barn or your same core group. And that way you can advance your riding plus hang out with your friends. Don't think you're gonna hurt anyone's feelings. You're just looking for something else in your riding. So if you're at a dressage barn and you wanna jump, go find your jump instructor, go find your jumping barn and be happy. Now, the last kind of aspect of this is a little bit more sinister, but I definitely want to include it because I think this happens a lot. For horse training, there's a very low barrier for someone to call themselves a horse trainer. Literally anyone could call themselves a horse trainer, and I think many of us, especially as teenagers, probably did call ourselves horse trainers. I know I did. I thought I was a horse trainer. I thought I was super great at it. I taught beginning lessons at my barn. That was very much just a teenager helping out the barn. Point is, there's a very low barrier. So that means the trainer you're with now could have just woken up one day and decided, I'm gonna be a horse trainer. And maybe they've only worked with 1 or 2 horses in their whole life, and that is not enough. So if you feel like you're struggling because your trainer doesn't know what they're doing, I mean, there's a very real chance that could be the case. I don't know for sure because I don't know you or your horse trainer, but it does happen. So if you feel like you're struggling and your trainer is struggling, maybe they're not as experienced as they claimed. And maybe you should look for someplace else to go. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm throwing it out there. And I think this, however, was the case in one of my most notable barn exits. I was a kid. I'd been riding and jumping and doing courses. And then I went to a summer camp. This is when I was a kid. I was 13, and I had so much fun. It felt relaxing and fun. So I switched to that barn. They rode Western, and it was a totally different experience for me, and I joined 4-H, and I was having a blast with the atmosphere, and there were kids everywhere. It was a lot of fun, except my instructor was awful at teaching me anything. I did not advance at all. I was cantering 2-6 courses at my other barn. She would not let me canter because she said I wasn't ready. For a 13-year-old kid, this is like end of the world. It was so frustrating. I could not understand why she would not let me canter. And not only that, there were no exercises she was doing that would progress me into cantering. So how am I supposed to canter if all I'm doing is trotting around the arena? It was literally just trotting around the arena very mindlessly. I was there long enough that I became a junior counselor for the camp. I was sitting there with one of the older instructors. There was a student out riding and I was sitting with her. And she said, oh, this is mainly just for him to enjoy riding around. Are you gonna give him instructions? No, apparently not. No, it was just so he could get a little joyride, a supervised joyride, you might say. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm not gonna advance at this barn because they don't push anyone. I think it was a lack of knowledge. I don't think the barn owner slash head trainer had the knowledge to progress people. She was already reaching the end of her knowledge. Where do you go from there? The only way to keep me on as a student was to give me hope that eventually I would do it, but she could not offer that to me. Now, unfortunately, I did stay a little bit longer. I was transitioning out because I started riding with my friend and then eventually I got my own horse, but she tried to sell me a horse through 4-H, which I don't even know if this is allowed in 4-H. It was a horse donated to the 4-H club that she tried to sell to me. And part of the requirement was I had to keep it on her property for like 4 or 5 years. So she would be making profit off of my boarding. Plus it was required to be in training. So I'd have to pay her to train the horse while she was able to limit my access to the horse. It was a yearling. What am I gonna do with it? I can't ride a yearling. I'd have several years of doing nothing. I realized I was basically just a dollar sign to her at that point. I found greener pastures elsewhere. So now we're back to Stu. Really, his current barn is great. The facility is great, except for the arena is so far away and it makes me uncomfortable. But I realized that I want to go back to the same riding program that I was in before. When I had Barry, who's the horse I mentioned earlier, I was in a riding program at a Hunter barn, and that's when I was advancing. I was doing awesome. I loved the people. I was having a great time. I was going to shows, even though I'm not really, I don't like sitting around at waiting at shows, but I was having a great time at this barn. And I realized I want to do that again. So that's what it came down to. I want to have the great time that I was having at my old barn. So I'm moving him to my old barn. It's gonna be a little bit different this time because last time I was a trailer and student, and one of the things I also like about this barn is they were so respectful of me as a trailer and student. I'm really excited to be back with them, and I know they're gonna do an awesome job with Stu. He is gonna be boarded there. So he's gonna go into their training program. I am going to be looking forward to rides with him because based on how well it went with Barry, I already know that they know their stuff. They're gonna make him such a good horse that I am so excited. He's gonna do a month of full training and then we'll see where he's at. Then I'm gonna start taking lessons on him. It should be really fun and I'm really excited about it. And I hope this will make me really enjoy riding again because I have been dreading going to the barn. That's how I knew it was time for a change. I don't wanna dread going to the barn. I wanna look forward to it and have fun. And I think that's what's gonna happen with this. So I'm really, really excited. Stay tuned for updates on that. So tell me what you think. Do you agree or disagree with the reasons why I would leave a barn? What are some reasons that you have left a barn? And what do you think are deal breakers versus you'll put up with? Let me know below. Tell me your craziest stories that you've ever left a barn. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time.